You've all heard of a to-do list, of course. How many of you are using a don't do list? Good morning, everybody. Lee Brower here, and welcome to this week's edition of Meaningful Monday. I am grateful to be here, and I am glad to be here. You know, this is my 254th consecutive Meaningful Monday. And if it wasn't for those of you that follow, I would not probably have 254 consecutive Meaningful Mondays, because sometimes I can't think of what to say. I don't want to do it. It's that type of thing. But knowing that you're there makes a difference. You know, I started Meaningful Mondays for me. Every time I do Meaningful Mondays, I'm talking to myself. And it's not telling you what I am. It's telling you what I want to be. So thank you for giving me this opportunity to grow and be a part of this. Have you ever cleaned up your office? Have you ever cleaned up your desk, organized everything, and then when you're done, made a to-do list, spent the whole day maybe doing it, and you felt awesome. You felt like you just kicked it. You had all this energy and ready to rock and roll. Next day comes out, you've got your to-do list, you're doing a check and a check and a check, and the serotonin, the dopamine, the adrenaline comes, and you feel, look at me. But are you checking off those things that are most important, or are you just checking off the checklist? Because you get the dopamine either way, right? And all of a sudden you get to the end of the day and you go, whoa, I still got all these things there. I have some of the most important things are still sitting there. Well, I can roll it over to the next day. And then you roll it over, you roll it over, you roll it over. Now, what if I were to tell you that perhaps a don't list might help you be more successful with your to-do list, your don't do list? Let's first talk about, if we want to have an effective don't do list, how do we make our to-do list even much better? One of the things that I'm starting to do is break my to-do list down into 4 categories. Now listen carefully. Those 4 categories are: first, urgent and time sensitive. The second one is not quite as important, but still important, and time sensitive. The next one is important and not time sensitive. The last one is not that important yet and not time sensitive. By breaking it down into those 4 areas, I'm then able to prioritize those things that need to be accomplished, or that should be, that I get to accomplish very right off the bat. Now, knowing that then, the only thing that makes that work is I set up my do not do list. And so now I've got my do not do list. And how is it broken down? Well, what am I not going to do for sure is I'm not going to do 2 before I do 1, and so on. I now go right to 1. And go down that list before I hit the 2, the 3, or the 4. The second thing that I have to not do is be distracted. And so I have to look at my system. So I plan my day. My path to mastery is made by looking at my day and saying, how do I protect me from distractions? Because if I get distracted, then it knocks me off, like just email. If I go to my email, if I don't have a plan for dealing with my email, it now affects me and knocks me off. I now have, believe it or not, a 0 inbox email. Thank goodness to a good team around me that has set it up. So I don't worry about email to later in the day. I want my day to start, boom, right out of the blocks. I don't want my email to dictate my day. Which moves me to number 3. And this is kind of a fun one, and that is that everybody else's normal is not your normal. And by that I mean a good example of that is, look at how these things dominate everybody else's life. And are you letting it dominate your life? If this thing rings, does it knock you out of number 1 and put you down the ladder someplace beyond 4 maybe, or 5 or 6? Who knows? But this sits around, this accompanies us everywhere we go. I've seen families sitting around for family dinners looking at their cell phones or being interrupted by it. Meetings with very important people, number 1 priority meetings, being interrupted with these. That's what the normal is now. That's everybody else's normal. It does not have to be your normal. And that's just one example. And I'm sure you can find many more. But if you'll follow this pattern, I predict that you will be much more successful, that you'll have more meaningful, more fulfilling days, weeks, and months. Please try it. Let me know how it's going. Let's learn together. Let's collaborate and create together. Thank you for being with me this Monday. I look forward to talking to you next Monday. Onward and upward.